Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into Azerbaijan's weather, specifically for July 11th to the 20th, 2025. But we're going beyond just the temps. We're pulling out the key insights from your sources, connecting the forecast to some surprising long-term climate stuff so you really get the picture.
Exactly. It's more than a weather report. This deep dive connects those immediate predictions to, well, the bigger climate trends. Things you wouldn't normally get.
Okay, so let's open up these sources. For Baku, July 11th to 20th, what really jumps out from that immediate forecast?
The standout thing for Baku, it's looking like a sustained heat wave. We're expecting consistent daytime highs, I think 32 to 35 degrees Celsius.
That's what, 90 to 95 Fahrenheit?
Right. And with humidity, it feels like temp could easily push higher, maybe 37, even 38 Celsius.
Wow, up to 101 Fahrenheit potentially?
Yeah. And heat like that obviously carries real health risks, especially for vulnerable people, outdoor workers.
That sustained heat is definitely major news for Baku. But something else in the sources caught my eye, this contrast. It's dry in Baku, mostly?
Mostly, yeah. Very low rain chances there, like 0 to 6%. Predominantly sunny.
But risks elsewhere. That's where it gets interesting.
Exactly. It's a key distinction. Yeah. While Baku stays dry, there's a specific warning. Thunderstorms, strong winds, even hail are possible in Azerbaijan's mountainous and foothill regions.
So not the whole country facing the same thing.
Not at all. And here's the aha moment, I think. Even with generally dry conditions overall, these intense localized downpours in those mountain areas, they can trigger flash floods very quickly in the river basins.
Okay, so even in a typically dry month, you need to be watchful in certain spots.
Absolutely. Vigilance is crucial in those specific geographical areas.
That regional difference is really something. So let's zoom out. How do these immediate patterns connect to Azerbaijan's bigger climate story? What shifts are we seeing long term?
Well, zooming out, the picture shows significant warming already. By 2010, Azerbaijan's average temperature was up 1.3 degrees Celsius.
1.3 degrees warmer.
Which is substantial. And here's a really stark statistic for Baku. The number of days hitting over 35 Celsius, it almost quadrupled.
Quadrupled, seriously?
Yeah. Between 1960 and 1990, there were about 86 such days. But between 1991 and 2020, that number jumped to 365.
365 days.
Yeah,
That's like every day in recent decades hitting that extreme heat mark.
Effectively, yes.
Okay.
It's quite alarming. And this leads directly to another critical issue. Water scarcity.
Right.
While the total annual rainfall might not show a decisive trend across the whole country, the intensity of extreme rain events has definitely increased. So you get this paradox. It worsens both drought and flash flood risks.
Makes sense.
And Azerbaijan is considered highly vulnerable to drought projected 18th globally by 2040. Plus, it relies heavily on transboundary rivers, rivers crossing borders.
And the Caspian Sea, that huge landmark, must be affected too.
Absolutely. The Caspian itself has a clear long-term warming trend. It hit its hottest recorded temperature 30 Celsius back in 2021. That warmer water means more evaporation, which is a big factor in why the Caspian is shrinking. There's talk of a potential multi-year ecological crisis there.
Wow. Okay, shifting gears slightly. Azerbaijan is hosting COP29 this year, a huge international climate conference. How do its own climate actions stack up against that global leadership role?
That's where it gets complicated. It raises an important question. Despite hosting COP29, setting emission targets, independent analyses rate Azerbaijan's actual climate policies as critically insufficient.
Critically insufficient?
Meaning their current path isn't really aligned with meeting global climate goals like the Paris Agreement. In fact, emissions are projected to increase maybe 23 to 40% by 2030.
Increase? But they have targets.
Exactly. It directly contradicts their stated commitments.
Yeah.
There's a significant gap there between the international image and the domestic reality, which seems heavily tied to its reliance on fossil fuels. Though it's fair to mention they are doing some adaptation work, like planting trees, greening cities. Those efforts are underway.
So as you process this deep dive, you can see it's a real dual challenge for Azerbaijan. You've got these immediate risks, the heat, the localized storms happening against this backdrop of accelerating climate change impacts. Understanding how those pieces connect is really key.
Definitely. And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. What does this visible gap between a nation playing a major role on the world climate stage and its own domestic policy implementation? What does that imply? What does it mean for Azerbaijan's own future resilience and maybe even for global climate progress overall? Something to really mull over.